Yes, greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to the LLB podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango, South Florida. And today's date is Friday, June 19th, 2020. So let us begin. Oh, hey folks. Hope everyone's doing well. There's going to be another big rally for George Floyd, the socially engineered event that became another 24/7 excuse for everything, which is the road to tyranny. Sounds familiar? Just recall 9/11. And like I said before, I'm not here to praise for his death or he got what he deserved. It was wrong. I do condemn his actions in the past, but there's no excuse for what happened to him in Minneapolis. But based on what's been going on, they're going to try to use the whole Juneteenth thing. Looks like the juntas, one of the junta clubs, want to exploit it for their own well-being. Instead of liberating, let's suppress everyone else. This is why you always got to be aware on the fine line, the words or the rhetoric. White privilege, white guilt. Some of these knuckleheads in this group try to talk about that. This is why I don't support them. I treat them like the Ku Klux Klan, the Nazis, and the Anti-Defamation League. Subversified quacks. Doesn't make me a racist at all. These little Mickey Mouse clubs are manufactured. And the ones that are participating, the folks that are behind it, don't give a damn. Alright? We're going to talk about more of the propaganda machines happening in Atlanta. Even with that goofball D.A. Howard is talking out of his rear end. These were all a bunch of illiterates. I got more information pertaining to that video I seen yet last night. Like I said before, Rayshard Brooks has done this to himself. I'm not praising what happened. I'm not saying he got what he deserved. You got to learn to take responsibility for their actions. Then he got some dimwit is actually conning his own constituents and making them all like total fools. The question I have is trying to get him for felony murder? What degree? They're not saying anything. How come they didn't get to a grand jury yet? How come it's not completely investigated? Or hasn't been finished? He's using it trying to get brownie points because right now there's some allegations he's being investigated for grand embezzlement. He wants to try to get this last prestige to get reelected or go out there with his so-called blaze of glory, which is unacceptable. It's like Jim Crow. When it comes to law and order. And don't get me wrong, even one officer, what's his name, Rose, he's called, there's some claims about him as well. All right, but what I examined, okay, maybe a few flaws in my personal view. How much you had to drink. You could drink water for all I care. All right? Because drinking to me is a simple question, not just consuming alcohol. That's assumptions. Usually they'll say the legitimate way of saying is, hey, how much alcohol you consumed? That's the legitimate question. So yeah, there's some flaws on the police side as well, the two officers. See, Rayshard's mistake, one, he should have kept his mouth shut. He had the right to remain silent. And two, he got physical, resisting arrest. Resisting officers with violence, they call him. You're going to put him on the pedestal? Don't even waste your energy. That's how I look at things right now. But if you want to send me more information pertaining to this, with some merit, bring it. You know what to do, folks. Like I tell everyone, please send some information to me. Don't be shy. I'm not going to crucify you, but make sure there's merit and there's integrity on what you're delivering. Because if we don't learn from one another, we'll be a bunch of zombified fools. Doesn't matter what you look like. All right. Speaking of Georgia, some interesting things are coming up, and I'll be doing a few things on that, and the police, of course, on a JPFO perspective, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, and sanctions in Syria, according to a land destroyer. We'll just start off here in Georgia. Rising star Stacey Abrams. Okay? Could be your next vice president. So, it's a woman who wants to be a slave master, just like Anthony Johnston. Look him up. A free black man that owned slaves. She wants to be the Andy Johnston of politics. Okay, I have the right to say it because she supported victim disarmament, firearm-free zone in Georgia. All right, so they want to have this blasphemous woman maybe the next running mate for creepy New World Order boy Joe Biden, right? So, as it says here, and it's by S.T. Patrick, former vice president and leading Democrat nominee for President Joe Biden has more than once confirmed that he's interested in choosing a woman as his vice presidential candidate. With much attention, facilitates between Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and even Michelle Obama. One name that continues to be appearing on the list, possibly, is Stacey Abrams. Before I go, just let you know, if you hear stuff in the background, I am at Downtowner Saloon, located at 10 South New River Drive in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Right by the jail and the courthouse. You could say a little bit north from here, all those areas. So, cool spot, great history, good people. They put up with me for all these years, so I'm doing something right. I'm going to continue on here. In 2018, Abrams was the first African-American female in U.S. history to be a gubernatorial candidate for a major political party. She lost the race for governor of Georgia. Democrats alleged without evidence that the election was stolen from her. No, because she was a treasonous parasite. She was pro-Jim Crow. That's one of the reasons why she lost. But the race brought her enough attention that she was asked to give the State of the Union response in January 2019. Today, Abrams make appearance on national cable news shows to give commentary, but currently holds no official office. Before running for the State House, Abrams served as a state legislator in Georgia from 2007 to 2017, and wrote semi-erotic romance novels under the name Selena Montgomery. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, Democrat from South Carolina, has questioned Abrams' lack of relevant experience as a drawback, adding her to the Biden ticket. When asked if Biden should choose Abrams, Clyburn said, "I doubt it. There's something to be said for someone who has been out there." Abrams has a bit of a national attack dog for Biden since endorsing his candidacy. She has been out front criticizing Trump for threatening to defund the post office, criticizing Tara Reade's sexual assault accusations against Biden, criticizing Georgia for reopening some of his businesses early, promoting vote by mail, and criticizing Trump's handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. Just to let you folks know about defunding the post office, that's the House's decision, U.S. House, under Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution. He can do an executive order, but the House has to approve it. Okay, I'll just give you those facts. Any questions, read the Constitution. All right? All this little nitpicking here at times. While she swears that you are more likely to be struck by lightning than to find voter fraud as a reason to support vote by mail, Abrams claimed that she lost the Georgia's governor's seat to Brian Kemp because of voter suppression. No, because you are pro-Jim Crow. I'll just repeat that. I'll say right in front of her, you are pro-Jim Crow. You want to be the Anthony Johnston of the governors, okay? So she don't want to hear that, but you know what? I can care less. Ideologically, Abrams is a cookie-cutter Democrat. There's little to be excited about. Even for the most enduring supporter of the Democratic National Convention, she lacks one signature idea key to the success of young politicians. Andrew Yang's universal basic income, for instance. Abrams is pro-abortion, supports expanding gun control measures, opposes stricter voter registration laws, supports open borders, supports expansion of Medicaid, and is a fan of increased spending on public education while opposing private school vouchers. Well, right there, she's pro big government. She's anti 10th Amendment. She's anti Bill of Rights. Period. And she's you can say right here, she don't believe in secure and defending borders from invasion. All right, it could be people wiser than me going across the border illegally. They're still invalid. Okay, so I'm just letting you folks know my intake on this. An excitement drum up for Abrams would be about what she represents more than an idea as she constructed. At 46, she is a relatively young black female from the South. All those are all valuable demographics to old white Northeastern career politicians like Biden. Before Bill Clinton chose Al Gore as his running mate, two Southerners, the thinking used to be by two names in a party ticket should complement one another. Biden and Abrams would do that, and it's something Abrams expressed on a leftist TV talk show, The View. How informative. I think Vice President Biden is going to make a smart choice, Abrams said. I appreciate the fact that he has lifted up women as being a necessary partner in this. I will share your concern about picking a woman of color because women of color, particularly black women, are the strongest part of the Democratic Party. The most loyal, but that loyalty isn't simply how we vote, it's how we work. If we want to signal that will continue. That work will continue. That we're going to reach not just to certain segments of our community, but to the entire country, then we need a ticket that reflects the diversity of America. Ethics. Diversity and ethics. That's how I look at it. And probably some people may say, what's this guy, nut job? I don't know what he's talking about? Shit. Excuse my language, but at least until this certain election is over, Biden will be fighting the loud whisper with his own party about his mental competence. It's questionable whether Biden can cure his perpetual foot-and-mouth disease to become a Mr. Congeniality. He is, after all, the man who described Barack Obama as articulate, bright, and clean. And most recently, he insulted many black voters by telling them, unless they vote for him, they aren't really black. I remember that, and that was hilarious. I'm sorry. Okay, black voters also turned off by Biden's instances on speaking in fake Southern drawl when he talks to them, as if every African American from the South, or this somehow means he is hip to black lingo. They realize behind it is far removed from their neighborhoods as many white men can get, owning one of the largest mansions in Delaware while simultaneously renting a Virginia mansion alleged costing $19,000 a month. It tells you how much of a poser this guy is, okay? Though the question of experience will exist, as they did with Trump in 2016, Abrams could sanitize some of Biden's glaring racial gaffes while also allowing Biden to keep his run with the women pledge. Whether he can be the spark in the 77-year-old Biden needs is such as a mystery as her ideology. Well, like I said, my friends, Stacey Abrams is not a freedom lover. She's another tyrannical rhetorician. All right? And all the stuff already said about her and what American Free Press has addressed is self-explanatory. All you got to do is a little homework. This person's unimpressive, another poser, trying to use a certain ethnic group to rally around. It's not going to fly. Not with me. I'm going to use the opportunity to insult her and very damn proud of it. And people who know about my show for a very long time can attest to it. Is why a lot of these clowns that you try to put in, I just laugh so hard. And that's why I always tell people, you gotta be vigilant. Don't follow the hype and the hoopla. And things are occurring right now in front of our eyes. don't let all these distractions get to you. If you're going to support these people, you better back it up on your principles and your facts. Why? And that's it. Race, color, creed, party don't mean diddly squat in my book, or in a lot of people's eyes. Folks are waking up, believe it or not. Don't let the idiot box tell you how to think. All right, next thing here is going to be, this is from naturalnews.com, which, of course, banned on Facebook, Twitter, and Google, YouTube. Chaos. Police PD is unraveling as the city is threatened by an anti-self-defense, anti-cop district attorney and criminal thugs he's empowering. This is what Lance Johnson has to say about this. Came out yesterday. When can a police officer use deadly force? Can a cop defend himself when an intoxicated man resists arrest, steals an officer's taser, and attacks? Should police officers succumb to beatings and allow dangerous criminals and intoxicated drivers to threaten their life? This is what happened to Officer Garrett Rolfe from the Atlanta PD. After pulling over a suspect for driving under the influence, Rolfe attempted to make an arrest, but he was attacked in the process. The suspect, 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks, stole the officer's taser and attacked him. Officer Wolf fought back in self-defense and shot the suspect in an effort to apprehend him. Anti-cop DA to abolish self-defense, handicapped police officers from doing their jobs. Suspect Rayshard Brooks took a needless, deadly risk when he fought the officers and criminally attacked him with the taser. However, Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard, as an anti-cop activist, has charged Officer Garrett Rolfe with 11 criminal counts, including felony murder charges with possibility of the death penalty. No grand jury. Explain that to me, prosecuting attorney Howard. Explain that to me. Most of the Atlanta PD is now standing with Officer Garrett Rolfe. Burke County Sheriff of Alonzo Williams said the officer was justified in shooting the suspect because the suspect attacked the officer with his own taser. Fellow officers with the Atlanta PD are now walking off the job in protest of Fulton County District Attorney's decision to press charges against Officer Wolfe. In fact, officers left their evening shift posts in Zone 3, 4, and 6 and are not responding to calls in the city. There are reports that officers are turning off their car radios, refusing to respond to reports of criminal misconduct. It's the worst day in law enforcement in the city of Atlanta that has ever been. Vince Champion, Regional Director of the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, the morale with the Atlanta Police Department has hit an all-time low. Atlanta PD unraveling as street thugs to rise to power, criminalizing self-defense. Atlanta PD is beginning to unravel as anti-cop sentiment engulfs the nation. Atlanta could become one of the first major U.S. cities to lose its law enforcement, as the communist left convinced the nations that cops can no longer use the force at all or defend their communities from violent criminals. Yes, law enforcement should be held to high standards, but they cannot be made handicapped to violent offenders, prosecuted for defending themselves. Without strong and capable law enforcement, gangs will rule the streets, extorting whomever them want, while running drugs into the streets. When police are told to stand down, violent BLM and Antifa mobs can hijack a portion of the city, like they did in Seattle. As thugs gain power, they threaten to abolish the police as they continue to riot, loot, and pillage property, threatening innocent lives. The case in Atlanta is important, for it has its implications. We'll have premeditated law enforcement operations around the country and drastically affect the rights of individuals to defend their own lives and property. If a police officer can be given the death penalty for acting in self-defense, then what can happen to individuals who act in self-defense after they are attacked by gangs, mobs, and violent criminals? If Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard gets his way, then Antifa and BLM mobs will gain incredible new legal power to attack whomever they want and berate police officers. Officers and law-abiding citizens will be helpless, scared to fight back in self-defense for fear of prosecution. A person of white skin defending himself from BLM mob could ultimately be given the death penalty for daring to save his own life. A white person, especially a cop, is not perceived as a racist, white supremacist if they defend their families and their communities from BLM mobs and Antifa terrorists. As police departments unravel because they aren't allowed to do their job, cities will devolve into a Wild West scenario where everyone is left to fend for themselves. This will only go on for so long until police departments lose their best men and women and are overrun by the very thugs who are rising power on the streets. Can we say New World Order agenda? Damn straight. This is why I tell folks, I don't go collective witch hunting. I judge people by their actions. Plain and simple. And I have my little battles with the police in general. And I know how it is being handcuffed and have a gun pointed at me. But it was a mistaken identity. And the officer did apologize because it was a disturbing moment. A violent ordeal happened in my neighborhood. And they gave a rough draft description. So, but I have bitterness towards them? No. But if I have my battles, it's always on principle. Nothing personal. Not here to be vindictive. And on even my show, I let people know how I feel about it. Yeah, I support police reform. I'm against police officers going to Israel and being trained by Israeli agents, whether it's the IDF or Mossad, which the Anti-Defamation League does the sanction. Okay, as a fact, all you got to do is look it up. But I remember that time. A lot of you remember me when I brought up what happened to George Floyd. All right, those are the areas I call out: federalization, militarization, and all that. And everything's like starting to backfire, but the criminal elements from the opposition want to push it more for their own personal gain, which I denounce as well. Remember, you got always go look at the human element, even with fellow police officers, because a lot of them are said. When they're out on the job, their lives are on the line. It's always been a dangerous world. I know people I'm in good ties with who are police officers or retired. They gave me some interesting stories as well. That's why it's always good to network with them. Just mingle. Because, like I said, they live their lives too. They have families also. But what's going on with here? With Mr. District Attorney Howard. He's nothing more than a tyrannical douchebag. He already breached his oath of office. And he needs to go. And you know what? You should get him for breaching his oath of office. Because he wanted to take to the two officers. He did the same thing. It's called hypocrisy. Double standards don't work. So, Mr. Howard, you're nothing more than a disgusting poser. Another Jim Crow in a suit and tie. All right, next one here about defunding the police, which jump on that bandwagon, don't even understand the fine print. Well, this is from the JPFO, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Came out yesterday. And it says here, defund police. JPFO says you misspelled. Defend police. Jews know better than anyone's values of police. Police can be agents of fascist states like World War II Germany. That is not U.S. in 2020. Only mindless lemmings would eliminate police. School of thoughtlessness. Media support and encouragement of left-wing anarchy is obvious, deplorable. Deliberate efforts of America's enemies is making situation worse. A few groups in history have suffered at the hands of police worse than the Jewish people. While perpetrators of institutional government injustice can be police, that is clearly not what we have in America at this point in time. Shames on news media and certain elected officials attempting to make it look that way. America needs its police. Police officers are not Nazi stormtroopers because they wear uniforms and carry firearms, says Dov Morhofer, a Holocaust survivor on the JPF Board of Advisors. Radio talk show host Cheryl Todd, who with her husband Dan owns and operates the AZ Firearms Gun Store in Phoenix suburb, says, "We are serving more people seeking to purchase their first firearm than ever before in our 15 years of business. Recent calls to defund and dismantle police departments have dramatically increased our retail traffic. The unstoppable complaints going around today collapse when facts are examined. Despite content, B-roll, old stock footage, propaganda played incessantly to the masses on TV are beyond any imaginable description as news. CNN and others have been incessantly playing the second half of a video footage showing alleged violent criminal Rayshard Brooks being shot while escaping custody, armed with other officers' weapons. They omit showing him assaulting police and stealing one of their tasers before attempting to escape. Such apparent felony crime can be met with lethal force response. The broadcast included a politician falsely describing the perpetrator failing to sleep drunk in a parking lot, not the payment line of a fast food joint, before his provoked violent confrontation. Yeah, in the parking lot by the drive-thru. You gotta do is watch that video. The drive-thru. These bogus inflammatory reports are reprehensible, inciting the mob to burn down the fast food store where the event took place. That blaze has been broadcast virtually nonstop, beyond any imaginable newsworthiness. Will anyone at CNN be held liable? Miss Todd continues, my husband and I discovered, despite the misguided goals of the rioters, looters, and what media calls demonstrators. She uses air quotes for them. Behind these instigating uprisings, we believe they sparked the beginning of a reawakening to our founding principles. Of freedom and liberty. The true value of police is very gigantic and honorable, JPFO insists. And media fail to inform or worse, deliberately misinform without a break. Our police deserves respect. They risk their lives day in or day out to protect and serve. They handle tasks none of us will. The media have abandoned any sense of ethics or professionalism in view, and their risk standing up righteously to call them out on it, says author and gun law expert Alan Corrigan, a JPFO consultant. Let the crazed leftists, socialists, and Marxists who have commandeered so many in the Democrats Party will now virtually control our spineless lockup media, convince ignorant masses they should eliminate police. See what happens. Then the message of the JPFO, arm yourself for safety, will ring more loudly. This continuing run on gun stores didn't the media tell you it's on, simulated by a Black Lives Matter uprising and allied Antifa-inspired riots, will look like popcorn runs at the movies. Without your daily police patrols and 911 responses, you'll need more guns and ammo than even JPFO would have you stockpile. And that's a lot. As a gun store owner, Cheryl Todd says, it's an honor to serve these first-time gun buyers in their time of need. We just don't just help them to obtain the right guns and ammo. We help arm them with training in tactical, legal, and constitutional areas. Store owners nationwide have remarked on the difficulty in remaining stocked during the rush with record-setting activity. You're not seeing institutionalized Nazi-like police violence. Media, Democrat-led deception, and lack of spine have motivated good police officers to forego law enforcement even when they are not ordered to stand down by their virtual and signaling superiors. That happened at Charlottesville, by the way. Okay? Blood's in the hands of the city of Charlottesville. Innocent people got injured and one young lady died. Okay? Who in America would believe city and state Democrat officials have instructed their law enforcement officers and courts to turn rioters and felons loose after arrest, or they turn a blind eye to the looting, arsons, and assaults being perpetrated and broadcast? Our police officers cannot remotely be compared to hell Nazi tyrants unleashed on the world. To do so is to sin. Hear this, you talking heads on CNN, MSNBC, and the rest. The senseless murder of one person or 14,000 to 6,000 is tragic and irreprehensible, but it is not the Holocaust. Holocaust survivor Moorhofer informed us. We have checks and balances. We really do. We have courts for redress. When your leaders don't insist, they neglect their duties, we have video cams for evidence when we use it. We don't have summary justice and executions in the streets like Bernie's revered Venezuela or Cuba or communist China. Which I'll say this, things are happening over there too with video cameras. But even in Cuba, people who are like anti-Castro are getting arrested right on the street. They're being filmed. So things are coming to light over there too, folks. One rogue cop, and even China and Venezuela. So I'll just add those in the mix also. I'll be very fair. One rogue cop caught on tape strangling a black man with a long rap sheet on the street. That's not what the communist Chinese do, and don't forget it. They machine gun people in public, well-deceived victims into their rooms. Cop and his mute allies will be tried for murder. This cop and his mute allies will be tried for murder. Never forget, Chinese people can't bear arms. Providing balance like we can, they're able to protest and yes, even riots. You have it, good Americans, and JPFO plans to keep it that way. It is good that the public is buying up guns and even in ever greater numbers, especially if you buy into the false narrative that police are your enemy instead of your allies. Your real enemies, rioters, looters, rapists, arsonists, misinformed and uncontrollable mobs in the streets. That's what you need your protection from. Communists acting out on plans for world domination. That's the threat. The media stays mum. The funding and disarming police is a flat-out wrong. It's flat-out wrong. It is irrational as so-called gun control laws the left forever promotes against the public while arming itself. Join JPFO and get your guns and ammo and training like now. Have the Black Lives Matter mobs and followers even mentioned training yet? He's right. Moorhofer is correct. He's been there. Not going to be wrong, like I said before, if I'm critical of the police, certain officers on their actions. And that's it. They should never be trained to be revenue collectors or deputies of Nottingham. Everything needs to be done in good faith. But you got these little jugheads in this city. Oh, they're good at pushing a pencil, and they claim to be lawyers. Try to tell them how to do their job. They can't even do it. So, this is why I believe in those reforms and the drug war. Okay, which the late Aaron Zellman, God bless his soul, from the executive director from JPFO, will attest to that. So was L. Neil Smith. We always got to look at things. We always got to be vigilant. The police are human beings, and yes, they are governmental delegates. The whole thing about the funding, I was against that from the very beginning because I know how those people, I know how the tyrants think. Got to know your enemies, friends. If not, you're going to get succumbed without you even noticing. So, always remain vigilant. Support your local police department. Stand on your principles. And don't wait for Washington, D.C. or Donald Trump to handle it. You're just wasting energy. Go to your next city or county commissioner's meeting or city council. Remember, you got to always plant the seed, not no tree. All right, so we're going to do one more here. This one, believe it, will be pertaining to Syria. Interesting here, from the Eastern Outlook, of course, Lens report. And it says here, why is the U.S. still sanctioning Syria? came out earlier today. Tony Carlucci. Chinese media highlighted recent plea by Beijing to the U.S. lift sanctions against Syria. So what it says here, interesting. You know, I'm not crazy about the Chinese government either, so let's just see what he has to say here. China's CGNT, an article titled Chinese Envoy asked the U.S. to lift unilateral sanctions on China, would report. A Chinese envoy on Tuesday asked the United States immediately to lift unilateral sanctions against Syria. Years of economic blockade have caused tremendous hardships to the Syrian people, in particular women and children. The sufferings caused by the devaluation of the Syrian currency and certain commodities prices, including food prices, fallen heavily on civilians across the country, says Zhang Zheng, China's permanent representative to the United Nations. I just hate that from the United Nations. I'm actually just winging this. I haven't read before I'm narrated here. So, China's attempt to aid Syria economically and challenge American sanctions aimed at Damascus follows Russia open opposition to the U.S.-led proxy war against the Syrian government, which included Moscow direct military involvement in the conflict and Russia's leading role in liquidating U.S. armed militant groups across the country. U.S. sanctions against Syria have long since outlived the alleged motivation for America's involvement in conflict, claimed as supporting democratic aspirations of the Syrian people and opposing alleged human rights violations by the Syrian government. It has been indisputably revealed that the U.S. deliberately engineered the conflict, from organizing protests before 2011 to arming and deploying militants to the country. Shift the 2011 street protests in a destructive proxy war has also long been revealed that the so-called freedom fighters were in fact extremists drawn from various terrorist groups, including Al-Qaeda and its many franchises. I'm not surprised either. A new World Order funded organization. Since Syria's security operations were in response to what is now revealed to have been U.S. aggression by proxy, and eventually direct U.S. aggression against the Syrian government, the sanctions themselves are revealed to be merely an economic component to U.S. attempts to decimate the Syrian nation, not in a way aid or assist the Syrian people. And of course, the U.S. sanctions against Syria have complicated the lives of all Syrians. The vast majority who remain in support of the Syrian government and lived in government-controlled areas of Syria throughout the conflict, to even U.S.-backed militants who eventually turned in their arms and surrendered to government forces. They all collectively face economic hardship and the difficult road ahead in rebuilding their nation. This altruistic excuse is the U.S. used to first impose sanctions on Syria. This increasingly feasible excuses to use to continue justifying them are now revealed as little more than propaganda and should be taken into consideration when questioning why the U.S. has imposed sanctions on other nations. The U.S. engineered and executed what was a humanitarian catastrophe in Syria. No one that is still actively attempting to perpetuate for as long as possible and now admittedly perpetuate to make it a quagmire for the Russians. Not as only is Washington's humanitarian justification for placing sanctions in Syria revealed as empty, but as Washington itself, who is guilty of trampling human rights in Syria. China and many others, for that matter, have asked for these sanctions to be lifted. Washington, to no one's surprise, refuses. But the inability of so-called international institutions to hold Washington accountable or to elevate Syria's current crisis reveal that the international order, these institutions, serve as dysfunctional and that alternatives desperately need to be found. China's economic aid and efforts to reconstruct China will eventually be realized. It's only a matter of time and how China will get around the U.S. sanctions. This will be done by either by directly opposing them or creating global systems that are entirely independent and insinuated from American interference. Either way, if Washington insists on maintaining its current policies, a global system, independent and insulated from America, is one of which America finds itself cut off and withering, a prospect that benefits neither the American people nor even America's ruling special interests. It's funny, if we see him right here, it's more like a cloak and dagger game, politically. And the truth of the matter is, too, is that the people in Syria will be suffering the most. And I'm not crazy about the Chinese government either. They're a bunch of douchebags as well. Remember, government Latin means control of the mind. That's why I love their doublespeak. Hey, how come there's reports about the Uyghur women in China are being raped by Han men. Okay, they represent the Chinese forces, China's soldiers, and the men, and they were involved in these concentration camps. Is that exceptional? Absolutely not. But I'll say this: I am not too pleased with United States' foreign policy. It's deplorable in a lot of areas. And I know Trump is trying to do some things, but it's not just only him. Like, I'm not crazy about the man in a lot of areas, but I'm not going to throw him under the bus solo. That's absurd. It's been going on for a very long time. It's 2011. Okay? Who was president at the time? Obama. Yeah, don't be surprised if Biden supported as well. But that's why these people are hypocrites. I say, yeah, end the sanctions in Syria. It's time to have a good, honorable relationship with everybody. Like the founding fathers agreed. No tangling alignments, foreign entanglements. Align with none, trade with all. All right? On a peaceable manner. So that's how I look at it. And you know what? That is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, if you say something that's interesting, want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave these footnotes on this show on my Spreaker page. If you want to do donation, you can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3. That will be posted on my Spreaker page as well. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.